Hello and welcome to Surprise We Both Love Movies. First off, I want to thank all of you guys who've been following us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube, and also to our new listeners on Spotify and on the iTunes podcast store. This week we'll be reviewing Enola Holmes, a great adventurous story starring Millie Bobby Brown. Go ahead, Aaron, start us off with what Enola Holmes is kind of about.
All right, so Enola Holmes, just to run down a little bit of the cast here, you're going to recognize some of these people. We have Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things. We have Henry Cavill from Superman in the DC movies. He actually plays Sherlock Holmes, her brother in the film. They also added a new character here who plays their brother as well. So there's 3 Holmes individuals in this movie. You got Helena Bonham Carter, who is playing their mom. I have 4 daughters, and I expect that, they'll probably enjoy this movie. It does take place during a certain period in the late 1800s in England when there was a lot going on, women's suffrage and a lot of other things. And it was a very political time, and so they capture that quite well. This film is entertaining from beginning to end. I enjoyed it, never got bored. It has a great cast. The only thing for me that really stood out that I really did not like was how Millie Bobby Brown had to narrate the whole thing. She would literally turn around and tell you what's happening.
What? That was the part you didn't like? That was some of my most favorite scenes in the whole movie. And that was like the part that you did not care for, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was hoping that, I think it's smart enough that people could follow along without her telling you everything that's happening. She does a really good job doing it. I'll tell you that. It was entertaining to watch her introduce each part. And it does get humorous at some points where she can't even keep track of what she said, which is pretty funny. So it does add a chuckle in the film, and it is entertaining. We decided last week that we would do this because we both have daughters. I have 4 daughters.
And I have 1 daughter. When I watched this movie, it was definitely from a dad perspective, but I could see a lot of similarities, a lot of things where I could say, I really understand, probably have a better understanding of how my daughter thinks now, because the movie, like I said, it was a really great journey. It felt like a young British, almost Indiana Jones / Deadpool / Ferris Bueller's Day Off is the best way I can describe it. It had a lot of those same type of direction, same type of feel, and literally about halfway through the movie, I was feeling like this is definitely going to be one of the better movies that I've seen since we've started our podcast. There was a great performances by Millie Bobby Brown, and the fourth wall thing, I think it worked. It's kind of like how a Deadpool type of movie would work, where he breaks the fourth wall regularly, but it totally works. And when she did break that fourth wall, it was funny, it was entertaining, it gave you insight into the female mind and how it works when you're a teenager. And I found it just honestly delightful, for lack of a better word. And it was just a great adventure. I mean, it really did. The movie was able to marry a couple of themes that I really liked. And the first one was how you live your life is the basic idea. And her uncle in the movie had this expectation that, hey, you know what? You are my ward because of something that happened in the movie, and I'm responsible for you. So what's most important to him was this idea that, hey, you need to do what's expected to make others happy. So you have this path you want to take in your life, but here's the path that I think you need to do in order to be successful. And that was a theme that resonated with me as a father, because you want to make sure your daughters, your sons, your kids have a good life. But there's also another theme that I really enjoyed, and that was the idea, which is counterintuitive or counter to the idea of the first theme, was that you can't just, there's a lot of people that just want to keep the status quo at all costs in order to protect their ideas and to protect the future. And you see this character who has to kind of struggle through both of these themes in order to figure out which path she's going to take in life. How is she going to make her decisions? Is she going to do what's expected of her? Or is she going to fight against the system and say, you know what, this is the path that I'm going to take. And even if no one else takes this path, I think it's the right path for me. Did you recognize those themes, and what did you think?
I did, to a degree. I think her character never had any intentions of following anybody else's path. She was definitely on her own path, which did match up with her mother. And that's how this movie starts, basically, though, is her mom disappears. They go through the great lengths at the beginning showing the relationship with her mom and what her mom taught her. She was home taught. And her brothers were gone for years. I think they said, what was it, 10 years or something like that they were gone?
At least.
And so they haven't seen her. And in that time, Sherlock Holmes is off making a name for himself. And she's left at home with her mom. And then her mom just disappears one day. And that's what this movie is all three of them go in search of their mother. Now, what's interesting about the movie is shortly after she goes on her adventure, just at the very beginning, and she's on a train to head off to go search for her mom, she encounters a boy who kind of changes the whole trajectory of the story. This is where things got a little weird for me, because I think when they finally got back to the story of her mom, it fizzled out. There was no payoff for me.
I think that's what I think this movie honestly is that, you know, you're taking this teenage girl who's supposed to fit into this box that says this is what your life's supposed to be. And when you have a movie that kind of explores those ideas, then the movie's not going to fit in that box too. Now, the way I looked at it was I was okay with it not fitting in that box. It was a little bit, you know, as a father, you're like, oh, you want certain things for your daughters, and it didn't fit that. It didn't say, you know, hey, here's what's going to happen. Whatever traditional path you see a teenager take in a movie, this one, you know, goes a different way. But that's what made it enjoyable, because then it became a little bit unpredictable as well.
Oh, it did. And I enjoyed the story. I liked that other story that they told. So I'm not knocking what they did. I just wish the beginning wouldn't have been so much about her mom.
The mother was very eccentric and very unique ideas on how to raise her daughter, which kind of made me as a father go back and say, you know what? Oh, wow, I did things pretty status quo, so to speak. I really wanted, you know, I felt a little bit more like, oh, I could sometimes see what the uncle, and I could definitely see like having a little bit more of that in me than necessarily the mom, who was super cool and gave her daughter a unique start to life. And so for me, I was able to look at that and say, hey, you know what, man, you know, I guess I could have did things a little different and you could still end up with an excellent result. But, you know, there was that, you'll see in the movie, the uncle is just, he's definitely the bad guy or the antagonist of the movie. So I can't say I relate with that as a father, but I can understand that mindset of, you know what, you want what's best for this person and you think this is the path that they should take.
Yeah, he's not really the antagonist. He's the antagonist of her path, not of the movie.
Right.
Of her path. I think it's a good lesson. I just think it was
Oh,
done in a way where it became much more adult towards the end of the movie.
Oh,
and
definitely.
I was like, I don't know if a 12 or 13-year-old is really going to grasp the weight of what was happening in the film. Well,
I thought it was like more of a movie for like a 16, 17, 18-year-old than I did think it was for a 12 or 13-year-old. I mean,
it is Millie Bobby Brown though. And
which is right.
You know,
I don't know how old she is, but she looked a lot older in this movie. It took me a minute to even recognize her. For those of you guys who don't know, she is the star of Stranger Things. She plays 11. And so obviously, I think when she started that show, she probably was 11, but now she's closer to 16 or 17. So if you think about it in that way, if your audience is between like 16 to 19, I think they're gonna really enjoy this movie. It's uniquely told. It's kind of the philosophies I love for my daughter to kind of just take in and just allow it to like permeate who she is and say, you know what, that's the kind of woman that I want to be. I'm not going to fall into these conventional roles. And when there's an opportunity for me to make a mark on this world, I'm going to take it. And that's a lot of what her mother had taught her in this movie. But also it's definitely a story of female empowerment. And it's definitely a role that you don't see or a storyline that you don't see for young teenagers who are becoming women. And I thought that in that regard, it was unique.
No, they did that well in this film. I think the target audience is well placed because there are other movies where they kind of throw this stuff into the film and it seems kind of disjointed.
Right.
it doesn't fit the storyline. This movie does not hide what it's meant to be. The one thing I did really like was Henry Cavill's character. I wouldn't mind if they gave him his own Sherlock Holmes series. I think he did a great job in his role, and he was the one that kind of was in the middle. He saw everything from both sides and tried to appease both paths that she was on, and he helped her quite a bit in the film. And I thought it was I liked their relationship. I thought it was kind of heartwarming. Whereas her other brother, not so much.
No, not so much.
Not so much at all. So there are some twists and turns in the movie that were really well done, and I think people will have a good time with it. So I think this one's going to be a big hit for Netflix. What's your final verdict on this one?
All right. So my final verdict on this movie, I thought it was great. I thought that you should definitely, if you have a teenage daughter, sit down and watch this together. You'll both be able to enjoy it for hopefully some of the same reasons, but some other very different reasons. And overall, like I said, I think that this is my favorite Netflix movie that we reviewed up to this point, and I give it an 8 out of 10 stars as a movie. As a film score, you broke the fourth wall, no film score. Don't worry about that. Enjoy it. It's a very fun movie. You'll have a good time. What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, I'm almost exactly where you're at. I'd give it 7.5 out of 10, and that's for a movie score. Film score, it's really not a film score unless you want to look at the message and learn about the history of what was happening during that time period. Fun movie, though. Fun movie. Fun. Thoroughly entertaining from beginning to end, and it's safe to watch with the whole family. So that is a good thing.
So that's our review of Enola Holmes. Hopefully you guys check it out. Make sure that you comment on our Facebook page or you comment on our YouTube page and let us know what you thought of that movie. So for this week, I'm Lamont Lovejoy.
I'm Aaron Fisher.
And we'll see you guys next week.